was a pretty serviceable Bond movie. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the...
Welcome, BCG. We've been waiting a long time for you to review this film. And now, here you are.
Indeed, I am. So, shall we get started then? Double Critic Guy, and I'm here today to review the film Sophisticated Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. I mean Spectre. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Now Spectre, being a James Bond film, obviously follows Agent 007 who is on a manhunt as part of M's dying wish to locate a certain individual and kill them. But in the process of trying to find this person, James stumbles upon something even bigger. Spectre, an evil secret organization responsible for all the acts of terrorism and criminal activities dating all the way back to Casino Royale. They were the ones pulling the strings all along. And so now it's up to James Bond to stop this evil organization before they control the world. Now I've stated this before, but I'll reiterate it again for those who don't remember. I'm not really a huge fan of the James Bond franchise. I've enjoyed some of the films for what they're worth, very campy spy action flicks. And there were some really great ones like Casino Royale and Skyfall 3 years ago. In fact, Skyfall was at one point my favorite James Bond film until I saw Casino Royale and I finally saw what people were saying about how great that film was and how it redefined the whole James Bond franchise. It was excellent. And as a follow-up to the critically acclaimed Skyfall, Spectre had some huge shoes to fill. But it looked like it was shaping up to be yet another solid hit for the Bond franchise, with Sam Mendes returning as director, the trailer looking really badass and atmospheric, capturing the tone of Skyfall really well, and casting a really awesome guy to be the main antagonist for the film, Christoph Waltz. I mean, this guy was just born to play a villain. You want a great villain? Get Christoph Waltz. And so, I went into this film with my friend Jared excited, and after seeing the film, all I gotta say is, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation did it better. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that this is a bad film. What I am saying is that it was a very underwhelming film. It just failed to deliver. In fact, after the movie, a group of friends and I, two of which were huge James Bond fans, stood for over an hour discussing all the things we found disappointing about this latest installment of the James Bond franchise. Now, I will say that if you're a huge fan of the old school classic James Bond formula, you might actually enjoy this movie more than I did, as this film really harkens back to the classic James Bond style, almost verbatim. But of course, we gotta start this review off right by discussing all the good elements to the film. The best element to the film, in my opinion, were the action sequences. They looked really cool, especially the fight between James Bond and Dave Bautista. That was just freaking awesome and intense to watch. And Dave Bautista is just one huge beast of destruction, just like wailing on James Bond. You're wondering whether or not he's gonna beat the guy because he's so damn huge. The entire organization of Spectre was just mind-boggling. That is how you do an evil organization. If I could say something that this film did better than Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, it actually made me feel like this evil organization was a presence all around the globe. And my God, they are so in sync. Like, there's this one scene where they're all on computers, but then the computer screens all turn off and they all just get up at the same time, just showing you the immense power this organization had. And their leader, Christoph Waltz, perfect James Bond villain. Like I said this before earlier in the review, but this guy was just born to play a villain, and he just eats up every single scene that he's in. He is magnificent. The cinematography used in this film, although nowhere near the same level of quality as the one used in Skyfall by Roger Deakins, but again, the guy is a freaking god of cinematography. You're never going to compete with that guy. He's untouchable. But it was very serviceable in this film. And they do kind of try to emulate Roger Deakins' style. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But when it worked, my goodness, it worked. There are so many great shots in this film. The best one out of all of them is the boardroom scene with all the members of Spectre. It looked gorgeous. From the heavy to ominous shadows to the dark atmosphere of the entire scene, the lighting and framing of all the shots, it just looked amazing. I also really enjoyed many of the dialogue scenes throughout the film, especially the ones between James Bond and the head of Spectre. Really well done. And finally, I still like Daniel Craig as James Bond. He still fits the bill as James Bond, although that kind of veers into one of my major issues with the film. And with that said, I guess now let's talk about some of the problems with Spectre. The first and biggest one being is that though this film does harken back to the classic James Bond formula, I personally feel that that detracts from the film rather than adds to it. See, the great thing, in my opinion, about the modern James Bond is that it feels much more deeper and complex than its predecessors, which all felt very one note. They had their one story and then they move on to the next. With the modern James Bond, all the stories in some way are interconnected, which gives them a chance to tackle much more darker themes, have more intense action, and tell a character-driven story. For the first time, we actually get more insight on James Bond as a character. In all the other ones, he plays the really suave, stoic, main character, badass. He doesn't really show emotions, which is fine for their era, but now we want more complex characters that have more layers to them. That's what the modern James Bond is. With this film, it harkens back to that old style where everything is just one note. James Bond is one note, the action scenes are one note, the story is one note, and it just comes off as very safe, by the numbers. But honestly, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a majority of you like the classic James Bond and we're waiting for him to make a comeback. I can't speak for you guys, but for me, I like the modern Bond better than the classic Bond. I think that he's a much more richer character than his predecessors. And tying into the whole by the numbers feel of this film, the action sequences, while I enjoyed some of them, most of them were pretty tensionless. Like, I wasn't really engaged with the action scene and I never really felt the weight of the situation. This is especially true for both of the film's climax. Yes, there are two, and they are without a doubt the most underwhelming climaxes I have seen in an action movie all year. Like, just so damn disappointing, and how easy it was. Too easy. You mean to tell me that the same guy who gave us an excellent climax in Skyfall gave us this weak-ass one for Spectre, especially with a much more interesting villain and organization? What happened? There were many weak characters in this film, particularly the female characters, which has always been a problem that I've had with James Bond films. The only one that actually got it right was Casino Royale. It gave us a really dynamic female character. But other than that, all of the female characters have all been generic love interests for James Bond to screw. And that's no exception here in Spectre. First is Monica Bellucci. What a complete waste of a character. She contributes absolutely nothing to the story. Yeah, you could say that she gives Bond information as to where Spectre is meeting, but honestly, Bond could have attained that information on his own. He didn't have to go meet Monica Bellucci to get this information. The only reason that he meets up with Monica Bellucci is to screw her. And honestly, that was the most awkwardest sex scene I've ever seen in a James Bond film, or makeout scene, because they don't really have sex. Not to mention, he seduces a recently widowed woman. Like literally, right after her husband's funeral, James Bond comes in, pins her to a wall, and he just starts like putting himself on her and making out. I'm like, God, are you trying to make James Bond a detestable person? Like first, in Skyfall, he has sex with a former child prostitute. Now here, he's having sex with a recent widow. I mean, it doesn't get more deplorable than that. Did you guys even think about that for like a split second? It's just really weird to see the main protagonist of the film do such deplorable things. I mean, seriously, this is the guy we're supposed to be rooting for, right? And then we got the real Bond girl of the film. I don't even remember her name. That's how forgettable this character is. She is such a stereotypical damsel in distress. And they try to build her up to be like this tough, badass female chick, but at the end of the day, she just turns out to be a damsel in distress. She gets kidnapped, Bond has to save her. She gets kidnapped, Bond has to save her. Rinse and repeat. And she has no chemistry with Bond whatsoever. You're supposed to believe in their relationship, but it's nowhere to be found. Like, you could pull out a pair of binoculars and you'll never find it anywhere in the entire film. And the last thing I gotta mention in this review, and it's neither a pro nor a con, it's just something that I found really weird and strange that they actually went with it and no one questioned it whatsoever, and that's the opening sequence of the film. Now, the song by Sam Smith is fine, it's serviceable, he has an excellent voice, but again, just like the film, it just comes off as very by the numbers, nothing really unique or special. But that's not what I want to talk about. The thing I want to talk about is that there is a scene in the opening sequence, it only happens for like a few seconds, where you see a girl being wrapped around with tentacles. Yes, you heard that right. There is a moment in the opening sequence where a girl is literally being wrapped around with tentacles. I could not believe what I was seeing. In a James Bond film, no one thought that that might look strange. No one questioned that idea. I will say one thing though, this film will be #1 in the Japanese box office for sure, just because of that one scene. Overall, I know it feels like the tone of this review is more negative than positive, and it seems like I hate the film, but I don't hate the film. I actually enjoy it for what it is, a very campy throwback to the classic James Bond formula. And if you're a fan of that, you'll get a kick out of this film. Like, this film would probably be a 3.5 or a 4 out of 5 for you, because you enjoy seeing that classic James Bond feel. But for me, I like the modern James Bond, the deeper James Bond, something that is more intriguing to me. And this film just never really intrigued me, and it's not a film that I can see myself watching again in the near future. And that's why I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 stars. It's okay. If you're not a diehard fan of the James Bond franchise, this is a film you could probably skip. You don't have to rush to see it. Oh God. I know I'm gonna get a shitstorm of hate for my thoughts on this film. I could just feel it. But do keep in mind, I'm not the end-all be-all opinion when it comes to Spectre. I'm just a guy sharing my opinions with all of you, and I would love to know what your thoughts are on Spectre. Did you love it? Did you think it was the greatest Bond movie ever made? Or did you find it really underwhelming and you just couldn't get into it like me? And let me know, what is your least favorite James Bond film? Comment below, let me know, and stay tuned. I will be reviewing Peanuts. I'm thinking I might do that review with Ryan. I would love to know if you guys would like to see Ryan back in another review, because we're gonna see that together. So would you like to see Ryan in the Peanuts review? And also, I got another anime review coming this Tuesday, and in 2 weeks, guys, you will be getting Disney Week, so stay tuned for that. And until then, guys, if you'd like to see more videos on this channel and be a part of the Black Critic crew, please hit that subscribe button below, like this video if you really enjoyed it, and I'm Guy, Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, YouTube.